Hi everyone, I'm Abby and this is Jason from RVmiles.com and the RV Miles podcast.
We're here today to talk to you about boondocking and to tell you that it is easier than you think. Boondocking, dry camping, dispersed camping, wild camping, pavement docking, whatever you want to call it. We're here to talk about camping without hookups. There are a lot of purists out there that are going to tell you that boondocking is only camping way deep in the woods, in the boondocks. But out on the road, pretty much anybody that says that, hey, we're going to be camping somewhere without hookups outside of a campground is saying, hey, we're going to go boondocking.
So if you have felt intimidated or unsure about boondocking, then this is your video, because we are here to tell you that boondocking does not have to be anything more than what you have in your rig.
This is not a video for the hardcore experienced boondocker.
But if you are confused or unsure, don't know where to start, this is your video.
So our big point in making this video is to say that your rig is prepared to boondock the second that you buy it.
Absolutely.
You do not have to go out and spend a bunch of money on solar and batteries to set yourself up for boondocking. And you shouldn't do that until that you know boondocking is something that's for you. Why spend all that money without knowing that it's something that you feel comfortable doing anyway?
That is our number one tip. Do not make any purchases that are specifically for boondocking until you have gone and experienced it for yourself. Find out if that's the kind of camper that you want to be before you start making investments in solar, more batteries, maybe a few gadgets that will help make boondocking a little bit easier. Just take what you have first and go spend some time with that. Just 1 to 2 nights. Don't go crazy. Don't go far if you don't have to, but just do 1 to 2 nights in your rig and see if this type of camping is for you.
You can even practice in the campground with hookups if you want to, or in your driveway or wherever.
There you go. You exactly read my mind. You could just do it in your driveway, and then if you just hate it, just go back in your house.
So most RVs that are sold out there, pretty much everyone, it is already equipped with batteries. It's equipped with a black water, a gray water, and a freshwater tank to hold your water for you. Your lights are going to work off of your batteries. Your water pump is going to run your water off your batteries. You don't have to be hooked up to anything wherever you are. Now, a lot of people just use that en route to their campground, and that's fine. All you're doing when you're boondocking is making that last longer. And the better boondocker you become, the longer you can do it without going to get resupplied, without going to dump your tanks, without going to charge your batteries, all that sort of stuff.
The biggest question that I think we hear often is boondocking safe?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is that it's just as safe as anything else, and obviously there are risks involved in anything. Most places that we have boondocked are not places where like sketchy people go to hide in the woods, and I think that's not most people's experience.
Do you know where sketchy people go to hide in the woods?
I'm just.
I didn't know there was an app for that. That's interesting.
It's not. Most crime is committed in cities, and that's really what it comes down to: is that you're away from people, you're generally away from crime. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be watching your back. Have plans in place to take care of yourself, and if something doesn't feel right, hook up and leave.
You have a home on wheels, and it can absolutely leave. Now, as much work as you put into vetting a campground, looking at campsites, deciding where you want to go, put that time and effort into where you want to boondock as well. Have a backup plan so that if you get there and it's full, which is absolutely possible in really popular boondocking areas, especially in the Southwest, you have somewhere else to go. But should you get somewhere and you're just not feeling it, too crowded, just something in your gut is telling you you need to leave, you can leave. You have a home on wheels. Just know where to go. What is the backup? And then what's the backup to the backup? Do the same kind of work you would do planning out your campgrounds and your campsites on vacation.
Yeah, and some boondocking sites are only for one rig. So you kind of have to know, I'm going to go to this site. If that one's not available, I'm going to go to the next one, or I'm going to try this area. You have to give yourself a little time. You want to arrive early and find some time to find the right spots to boondock.
Absolutely.
So where can you boondock? Most boondocking that we have done and that our friends and other RVers that we come across do is in national forests and on Bureau of Land Management land, BLM. So you'll hear that a lot. And this is basically your land. It's American land. It's owned by all Americans. And for the most part, if it's open, you can camp on it, especially in the BLM. BLM land, if you can find a pull off, generally you can camp there. Now there are places that have rules and restrictions, but generally you're going to be able to find spots where there are large quantities of BLM and national forest land. Now there are not so many boondocking spots in the more populated areas, especially the East Coast. In the West, there's lots of space and there's lots of open land places for people to camp. So sometimes it's done on land like that, national, federal owned land or state owned land. Sometimes boondocking is staying overnight in a Walmart or staying overnight at a Cracker Barrel or at a pull off on a highway that is part of a national forest or at a rest area, all that sort of stuff. Those all, some people consider them boondocking, some don't. Regardless, it's the same thing.
And we've
You're
done
camping
all
without
of those.
hookups. Yeah.
We've done them all. We did a 10-day stint just outside of Zion boondocking. We've done short stints outside of Badlands National Park. We've done a night in a rest stop, a night in a Walmart, a night in a Cracker Barrel. We've done them all. But the way we find them, because there's a lot of information out there, and so you really have to try and sift through it and figure out what's going to be best for you. And one of the two places we love for information on boondocking is Campendium.
And Campendium is where we go to look for paid campsites as well.
Absolutely.
So it's really the same thing. We're just researching free campsites on Campendium because on Campendium, people go in and they review where they camp. They give you you look into the details of the comments. You can see the information about that site. There might be a gate you have to open. There might be somebody you have to talk to. There, all sorts of information you can get. You can find out if you're going to have decent cell service. All that sort of stuff you can find on Campendium. Now, Campendium isn't going to have all the boondocking spots that are available for you. Another website that we like to go to find boondocking is a site called freecampsites.net, which is exactly what it says. You get what you're there for. Free campsites. When you go to a national forests are all across the country. When you go to a national forest and you want to find boondocking, one thing you can do is go to the ranger station or the visitor center, and you can ask them for the motor vehicle use map. And that's going to tell you where you can park motor vehicles at and stay overnight. It's generally going to be pull-offs on roads and little side roads that you can take. And sometimes there's even fire pits and stuff. And there's lots of different ways that you can camp even within a given national forest.
I think you would be surprised at how sort of set up some boondocking sites can be. Everyone does practice the leave no trace principles. Sometimes you're going to be completely by yourself, but sometimes you're going to have neighbors.
And road noise.
And that is one of the great things about both of these websites, because you can kind of distill down the type of boondocking you want to be. How far do you want to drive in? How hard do you want to have to work for that spot?
One other great resource to check out is a Facebook group called Boondocking and Free Camping USA. And that's a good place to talk to people about an area that you might be going to and find out where good boondocking sites might be. It's also good to talk to people or to read those reviews, because some boondocking has very difficult roads to get into. Your rig might be too big to go down a certain road, or you might not be comfortable going down a washboard road, or it might be a road that floods out when it rains. So it's good to get that kind of information. And again, those are reasons to just have a backup plan, to have some flexibility. That backup plan might be a paid campground.
It might have to be.
Having an option if the boondocking doesn't work out for you is always a good thing, because any of those things can happen at any time.
I am not a fan of washboard roads. I like to avoid them at all costs. So now you know how to find them. Now you kind of get an idea that it's safe. Let's talk about some of the specifics, like how-tos. And I think the first thing we should talk about is electricity, is power. What will you be able to use if you're just using your rig? What would you be able to use should you upgrade?
Now, on your battery system runs your water pump, and it runs all your lights, and it will run your furnace. So you can use any of that stuff while you're out boondocking just off your battery system. Your battery system is going to run your lights for a very long time. It's probably only going to run your furnace for a night. So that might be the first area that people sort of look to upgrade is that, because the furnace takes battery power to run the fan in it. But for some of your other electrical needs, like being able to see inside your rig, you'll be fine because you'll have light. If you want to, the first step that most people take before getting solar and before getting additional batteries, the first step that most people take is to get a generator to sort of extend their time on electricity. And if you get a generator, you're going to be able to run all your outlets. You're going to be able to use a hairdryer, your microwave.
Not all at once.
Not all at once. Even
you're going to have to pick and choose.
Even your air conditioner if you want to. Well, though I don't suggest running your generator all day just to run an air conditioner, because you're not really saving money at that point. You're going to be spending a decent amount of money on fuel.
And you also really need to be mindful of generator use. Okay, so you have to remember that the whole point of boondocking is to unplug and get away from all of it. And if you are running a very loud, and they often are, now not all generators are, but most are, if you're running a very loud and noisy generator and kind of disturbing that peace, then it sort of defeats the purpose for you and potentially for those others who are out there trying to enjoy.
Generators are really a you get what you pay for product, and you do want to spend the money on a quality generator that is going to be quiet, and those are called inverter generators. The cheaper framed generators are going to be very loud. They're going to sound like lawnmowers outside your rig. Nobody wants that, including yourself. We basically use it during like cooking time. Sort of we'll recharge our batteries, and then we can use the microwave for a few minutes on top of that. We may use it for like an hour or two in the middle of the day if it's very hot to turn the air on. But mainly we're using it for like getting ready time, computer charging time, and then we shut it off.
Yeah. And we generally, too, because you're not going to leave it running while you're gone. So a lot of time it's generator use in the morning, then we're out exploring, and then there's a little bit at night. But a good rule of thumb, I think, and this may not necessarily be a rule, but I do really try to stick to like generator off by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in some places like National Forest where they may have campgrounds that have no hookups, and those are sort of kind of boondocking light. This is actually paved or dirt campsite that has no hookups, but is a place to park, and you might pay for it and you may not. But sometimes they have rules about generators, so it might be 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night. We'd sort of try to follow that. I think 2 hours when we wake up to make breakfast and stuff, and then lunch is usually sandwiches or something when we're boondocking, and then in the evening
it's time to recharge all of the devices.
Yeah.
So if you decide that boondocking is for you, or you just kind of want to start making some upgrades to your rig, you would go probably generator first, and then would you roll into looking at batteries, or would you go solar?
Well, batteries,
or is that kind of
batteries and solar go hand in hand, because solar panels are just a way to charge your batteries. So anything that is hooked up to your batteries, they are going to sort of run. They're actually not running them. They're just charging your batteries. And you can add an inverter, which is something that converts that DC power into AC power, so you can run other things that you plug in your rig. But those things generally take a little bit more electricity. But you generally scale your solar system with your battery system at the same time, because you're trying to charge that battery system. Now, you're not going to be able to run your air conditioner or really power-hungry devices off your solar and battery system unless you really spend a lot of money on them. If you decide this lifestyle is for you, go ahead, go do that. But again, you don't have to. And one of the reasons that you don't have to is that much of the stuff on your RV that doesn't need electricity runs off propane. So let's talk about cooking.
You can cook anything you want while you're camping for the most part. Break out that Blackstone griddle or that grill that you've been lugging around with you. Cook outside. One of the things, though, that we suggest, especially for someone new to boondocking, is keep it simple, though. You can run your Instant Pot, but you're gonna have to just run your Instant Pot.
That's something that you would do in that generator time.
Right. So, and you can make a quick meal off of that really fast, and then there you go. You've got what you need. If you have a Yeti cooler or a Pelican cooler, consider putting your drinks into the cooler, your bottled water, whatever that is you're bringing with you, because those are going to keep things cold for about 2 to 3 days. So if this is just sort of like your shakedown boondocking trip, consider using a cooler to kind of help with the needs that your refrigerator is going to have to keep things cold throughout the day. Consider just having sandwiches and hot dogs and chips and keep breakfast really simple. Just be really easy on yourself like you were in your first days of RVing or your first days in camping. One pot meals, instant pot meals. We will link in the description to some articles we've written that have got really, really simple recipes that you can do that are not going to take a lot of prep. They're not going to take a lot of ingredients, but they're going to keep you fed and you're going to have a great time, because honestly, you're probably not going to want to spend a lot of time cooking food anyway,
One of the best reasons to cook outside when you're boondocking, especially when it's hot, is to just keep the heat outside since you don't have an air conditioner running. Now, that said, you have a propane stove and you have a propane oven, you can absolutely use them. They don't require electricity. Your propane fridge will hold everything just fine and it'll keep stuff very cold. And the propane fridge really sips propane. Your two 20-pound propane tanks will really last you several weeks boondocking if you're not using a furnace. Furnace and the water heater are the things that take the most propane, and you can just turn the water heater on when you need it.
Yeah, and whatever you decide to do, though, just keep it simple, especially for your first trip out boondocking.
Let's move on to water.
Oh, yes, water conservation, the big one.
So water is the thing that will bring you out of your boondocking spot the quickest. Either your tanks are full or your freshwater tank is no longer full.
Party will end real fast if the water is not conserved.
Yeah, so now one of the nice things about most freshwater tanks is usually you can pour water into them. So if you do run out of water, you can get like a 5-gallon jug and you can pour water into it. Some rigs don't have, they have like a hose hookup and it has to have pressure to fill the freshwater tank, and unfortunately you have to get a hand pump in that type of situation. But you can go out and add water if you need to. What you can't do is dump water wherever you are. No. So what you really want to do is try to conserve water so it's not filling up your black tank and your gray tank. Your gray tank is generally going to fill the fastest. So some of the things you can do are conserve water while you're showering by turning the shower off during the shower. A lot of RV showers have a switch on the shower head itself to turn it off, and what the whole purpose of that is for you to be able to turn off the water, but you still got the temperature set so that you can get in, you can wet down, you turn off the water at the shower head, soap up, and then you turn it back on and rinse off real quick. And you can use very, very little water doing that. Showers take the most water by far, the second thing being the toilet.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you don't want to skimp on the water you use flushing the toilet.
You really don't.
Because you don't want that toilet paper to pile up. Now, you can, if you really want to, not put the toilet paper in the toilet. And a lot of people do that. They'll put it in a trash can.
You do have to haul it out. So you're going to want to have somewhere that, like, if you're not leaving for the day, that you can maybe put trash where it's not going to be stinky and it's not going to attract animals.
You can also do a hybrid of the two where you put the dirty toilet paper in the toilet and the not as dirty toilet paper in the trash.
I recommend that.
Yeah.
Another thing you could think about too, it's relatively inexpensive to purchase, is you could get a solar shower that's going to hold about 5 gallons of water. It's going to stay outside and it's going to be heated by the sun. Now that is going to allow you to rinse off your feet if you're camping anywhere near the beach. It's also going to allow you maybe to rinse off some dishes. It's just going to kind of extend the life of your tanks inside. Anything that you need to clean up outside, you could maybe think about doing with the solar shower. So that's just another way to help extend your life boondocking, but also, so you're not stressing out about the amount of water you're using.
One way to keep water from filling up your gray tank, a lot of people will put like a bin in the shower and that will collect some of the shower water, especially right after you turn it on to sort of get the temperature right. And then they'll just leave that there and let it collect water while they're showering so it doesn't go into their gray tank. And then they use that water with a pitcher and pour it down their toilet to be their flush water. Because your black tank usually doesn't fill up anywhere near as fast as your gray tank. And that's a way to sort of balance it out a little bit.
Now, of course, if you find that you absolutely love boondocking, one of the things you could consider in the future is an investment in a composting toilet. We had a composting toilet when we were bus people and we were living in our school bus conversion. We absolutely loved it. We especially loved it for boondocking. Keep that in your back pocket after you've done a few boondocking trips. If you are really set on this lifestyle, that might be the thing for you, a composting toilet.
The nice thing about a composting toilet is that it virtually doubles your gray tank capacity, because you can turn your black tank then into a gray tank, and then you don't use any water for flushing, and we were able to go long periods of time.
Yeah, our last boondocking trip in the bus was actually 10 days outside of Zion National Park in Utah.
And we could have gone longer.
We absolutely could have gone longer, and we were just operating on a generator, the batteries we had installed, and then because of the longevity that the composting toilet was giving us.
But overall, boondocking does involve sacrifices. So if you're somebody that needs the comforts of home, and that's why you bought an RV, you probably are best off at a campground. Boondocking does involve you not showering as often. I mean, even though that Navy shower that doesn't take very long and doesn't use a lot of water, you don't want to do that every day, or your boondocking trip isn't going to last very long, especially if you're a family of 5. So, and you know, if you're somebody that feels like you absolutely must shower every day, your time is going to be limited. If you feel like you have to have air conditioning, if there are certain items that you just have to have plugged in all the time, maybe it's not right for you, or maybe you're only doing it here and there for little bits of time. But there are sacrifices involved, unless you do go spend lots and lots of money. Even then, that in and of itself
that's
is a sacrifice.
You know what, though? The rewards of boondocking, though, are really spectacular in the sense that we have been surrounded by some of the most beautiful landscape that we have ever seen when we have been out boondocking. Spectacular sunsets and sunrises in such quiet and pristine environments. You know, boondocking does not have to be intimidating. Sure, we just ran down a list of all these things that you need to know, but at the end of the day, it's tent camping.
That's really what it is. You're hauling around a shelter.
That's exactly what it is. So you can absolutely boondock with what you have, and you should. You should go out and do this, even if you only do it once. If you've never been boondocking, we hope that this video will give you a little bit of an inspiration to go out and do it when we're all back out and enjoying the camping seasons again.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Please like our channel, subscribe to our channel, hit the little notification bell, all those things that all YouTubers tell you to do that we're not so good at.
I don't know, we haven't really gotten our shtick on that yet.
All right, bye. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.